Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another True You podcast with me, Paula Burns, Creative Confidence and Visibility Mentor. This is a place where we have open discussions to understand who we are in order that we can live our lives to the fullest. And every week I bring on a special guest who is living their life, their true lives. I say this every time, and I feel like I repeat myself all the time, but it is so important because you might be just listening to this podcast for the first time. And it's just so important to realize that everybody has their version of their true life. So easy to look at everyone else and say, oh, it's really easy for them, or they've got this happening for them, or they've got that happening for them. But you have your version. And so that's why I bring on such a diverse group of people that I can talk to and just hear about their journey and their challenges, their ups and downs. And so hopefully that it will inspire you as the listener to live your true life as well. So I'm going to get straight into it and introduce my guest, Rose Hill. Welcome, Rose.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm good. I'm really looking forward to our chat and to find out more about you. And because I know that you've got like this creative background, and I'm all about creation and being creative. So let's get straight into it. Tell everybody, what is it that you do?
So, I'm the founder and artist of Co-Creative Connection. We bring communities together to create joyful and creative spaces through murals and public art. And we do it through workshops where we're celebrating your culture, your values, everything that's about you. And we make and create stronger spaces and create that with a stronger sense of pride, belonging, and connection.
Sounds really exciting. Tell us a little bit more. So what sort of clients do you work with?
So we work with all sorts of different people. So we work with housing associations, construction companies, councils, schools, even like the NHS. We work with all different communities. So it's all about the community that we're serving. So whoever and whatever area that want to do and create a space that they can feel proud of and that they create and design themselves. And I hope make it really professional and look really joyful.
This is really different. I don't think I've ever heard of anything like this before. And I suppose, did you bring this to this arena, to this space? Is this something that's very unique to you?
Yeah, so if you can believe it, I've been an artist for 21 years now. I can't
I
believe it.
can't believe it
So
either.
hopefully I don't look it. Hopefully
No,
I look
you
too
really
young.
don't.
But if I may, I can tell you about my journey and how I got
Yeah,
to this.
absolutely. Well, my next question sort of talks about taking you back to your childhood and going through that journey. But if you want to go right back to the childhood, because I will ask you that question about what your childhood was like, and then the journey from there that actually brought you to this place that you are now.
Definitely. I'll start off with uni and then we can go back to
Yes,
childhood a bit
yeah, that's
later.
fine. Yeah.
So I studied textile design and I went to Chelsea, which was amazing. And from there, I got my first ever commission for Charles Saatchi, which was super exciting. He came along to our show, and in any sort of art shows, you have just a little sketchbook out that you get people to write their comments.
Yeah.
And my postcards all had been taken. So he wrote in my book to get in contact, which was really exciting. And yeah, it was just like amazing to be like so young, straight out of uni, or not even quite finished uni yet.
Yeah.
My first ever commission was for Charles Saatchi. Then it was with his previous wife. He's had a few. So at the time he was married to Nigella Lawson, but he had a daughter called Phoebe with a lady called Kay. And so it was them two together that I was working on a dress for their daughter for her 13th birthday. So she was super lucky. She got a tailor-made, completely customized print dress for
Yeah.
her 13th birthday. And from that, they were really happy with it. So I did like another commission for Amanda Eliash, who was a fashion editor. And so she got me to do a waistcoat for her son. And I was doing the prints as well as the actual garments.
Right.
So I was designing the prints, what they wanted to see on them, and then the actual garments. And then I worked for a tailor called Charlie Allen, who designed the England World Cup kit in 2010. So a few years ago now. But I was always working with these amazing different people. And at the time, because when you're at uni, you really don't know that you're actually doing the right things. You're always thinking, oh, I'm meant to get a real job. So even though I'm doing these amazing commissions and I actually technically started my own company at that time, I was like, oh, I need to get a real job. I need to get a real job, which is crazy. So
that's because we are so schooled into that with society. Society gets us thinking that that's not real.
Exactly.
You enjoy yourself way too much. Why are you enjoying yourself so much? You need to get serious and live life.
Exactly. And it's just crazy, isn't it? Because you think actually that's just bonkers, because actually what I was doing. But at the time I was so young, so I didn't know that it was. I am really grateful because I did get that real job. If you remember the company called Woolworths.
Yes.
So I designed girls' wear for Ladybird. So I was designing the prints and then the garments for.
But you were still doing what
in
you
design. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But this was more like a regular job, so you got paid regularly and all of that kind of stuff. And from there, I was like, when I was younger, I always wanted to live in Australia, and originally my plan was to get a part in Neighbours and marry Billy Kennedy, which was in Neighbours just as an actress. But I always knew I wanted to go to Australia. So my real job allowed me to do that because I got a job in Australia before I went there. So they actually waited 3.5 months for me to fulfill my role, which was really amazing. So I designed the print wear for women's wear, and then I got promoted as I was there. I was there for like 2 years, and I was doing all the prints, but I was doing the prints for a couple of different brands and then the ladies wear for a couple of different brands. So in the end, I was sort of doing 3 people's jobs. So, and then I came back to the UK and I worked. I then started feeling more confident that I could work for myself again. So I freelanced and I worked for different studios. So I was designing prints for different studios, and I was designing prints for like John Lewis, Debenhams, Ted Baker. And I was also designing and working with Abigail Ahern in interiors. So I was designing her collection with her for Debenhams, and I was doing lots of different things, and it was really amazing because all of these different places, it means that you get more confident in what you want to do, and you know where you're meant to be going. So after all of that, I then set up Rose Hill Designs again as a company, which obviously it was at the beginning because straight from the degree, but not knowing. So then I started that up, and at that time I got picked to do a trade show called Top Drawer, and I was picked in the designers area, and I was like, I can't just sell prints because not like shops don't just buy prints. So I was like, what can I make and create that I can do my artworks, but then people can buy. So I started to go into the greeting card industry, greeting cards, notebooks. And it was such an amazing industry, and it was so much fun, and I did so well. So I collaborated with Harrods, ZSL London Zoo, the British Museum, the British Library. I taught at the V&A, British Library, and I was doing, and in Oliver Bonas, Scribbler, all of these amazing places. So I had so much. It is such a fun industry, and I would really recommend anyone that's creative that wants to get into a product to do greeting cards, because it's like such a beautiful industry to be in. There's lots of really lovely people. There's people that you can learn from. At the time, there was this thing called the Ladder Club that was really amazing. I hope and I think it's still going. But it was really fantastic. And to be honest, I ended up being in that industry a bit longer than I wanted to, just because I was having so much fun and so much success.
So can I just stop you there? Can I just ask, how, when you say the greeting cards, so these are companies where they provide in their own greeting cards, you mean, for the ones
I designed the greeting cards. So I was designing my own greeting cards.
They were selling that under their
exactly. So in Scribbler, you'll have lots of independent artists, and they'll sell independent artists as well as their own stuff. And so I was also doing this thing called Make Your Pet Famous, where I was drawing people's pets. So you can actually see it behind me still.
Right.
You can see my ZSL London Zoo collaboration with the lion, and then like dogs. So I draw people's dogs, cats, and then I would put them onto the greeting cards, and then I would get the places to sell the greeting cards. And it had a little story on the back of the card that had all of their information about the dogs and the cats.
Awesome.
It was brilliant. And I was doing that all around the world. And I did a project in a show and an event in Japan, which was the most amazing thing that you could do. And it was so much fun. But what I was also doing, because I was really interested in murals, is I was painting murals behind my exhibition. So I was painting all these beautiful murals and then having artworks. And then it was a combination. So when COVID hit, I was like, how can I help people? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I don't know how to help people in that kind of way. But I do know that art makes a massive difference to people's lives. It makes people feel more mindful. They have a lot more relaxation. It brings people together with their family, their friends, all of these different things. So I was like, I've taught at the V&A and the British Library. I've painted murals around the world. I was like, how can I bring these two things together? So I was like, let me do a one-off project. And I crowdfunded it, and I got the Mayor of London. He put some money towards it, some other charities, crowdfunding, and all different companies helped make this project happen. So I did it as a one-off project in Hackney Tower Hamlets for a community centre, and I saw the difference it made on the people's lives that were there. So a particular lady called Joy, at the beginning she was anything but joyful, and she felt very disconnected to her community, the community centre, and this really made her have lifelong friends. And it was so incredible to see the difference it made on all of their lives. I was like, I'm going to change my whole career to be this project. So that was when Co-Creative Connection was born, and it was from that, but it was from seeing the difference that it made on people's
lives.
Gosh,
it's such a story. It's such a story. And you mentioned, let's go back to the whole greeting cards thing, because you said that you worked with so many different types of companies on that. How did you, say somebody's listening to this now and thinking, well, gosh, that sounds loads, how did you do that? I mean, how did you get your contracts? Was that through word of mouth? How did you sort of get in and, it's that first step in?
Definitely. And so I do think it's really important to think about the times. So this was 2013, and that was my first trade show. So trade shows at that time were on their way out, but they were still really a very big part. So I met all of my big players. So even at the actual first show that I ever did, I met Harrods, I met Scribbler, and I met like a lot of different companies. And at that point, they were just watching. They were seeing and watching, because they don't know whether you're going to stay around, whether you're going to be able to do stuff. To be fair, I did actually do a project with Harrods straight from that first show, actually, because they got me to design something under their own branding. So it was lots of handbags, purses, oven gloves, aprons, tea towels. So I did a number of designs that were all under the Harrods name. So it was under, as in Harrods designed it, but I designed it for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So there are different ways. Sometimes you can design it under your own brand name, and sometimes it can be under their name.
Clients, yes.
Yeah.
Different you create, yes.
Exactly. And because I was a print designer, I could do that. But then later on, I managed to collaborate under my Rose Hill Designs, which was fantastic. So I've worked with them on about 5 different occasions in different sort of ways. So some under their name, some under my name.
Yeah.
But trade shows were a fantastic way of doing it. But they're super expensive. And that's why I think the Spotted, so I was in the Spotted, it was Charlotte Abraham. She spotted me. And when I say spotted me, I made sure she spotted me by sending in my stuff, so then she could spot me, because I think people think that it's all luck and you get spotted, but actually you need to make your own opportunities.
Do you know what? I say this a lot, that when people say, oh, they're so lucky, there's no such thing as luck.
No.
You create your luck, because if you don't put yourself in the position for that luck to find you, you're not going to be lucky.
Exactly.
So, I remember this like really sort of simple story where this guy was saying he always finds money, and it was really simple. It was really a really simple story. He said, I always find money when I'm walking on the street. People are like, oh, how'd you do that? I've never found anything. I'm never so lucky. But he literally looks for money.
Exactly.
He's looking for it. And
exactly.
Making moves about it. And this is what, people need to realize this, and that it was good, because I wanted you to say, how these all came about, because you being at the exhibition, and I know they're really expensive, those trades so expensive, but you being there, you made those connections. Now you could have done it in a different, there are other ways, but you need to put yourself in the space.
100%. And not only be there, you need to do the preparation and the post. So you need to eat. So I would always recommend get everyone's details. Don't just let them get your details. You then follow it up. You email. It was so lovely to meet you. Remember something that you met them about, and then you say, oh, it was so lovely to meet you on this day. I loved the dress that you were wearing, and we had this great conversation about whatever the conversation was about. It'd be wonderful to continue that conversation. I'd love to show you more of my work. And think about how you can help them. You're solving their problems.
Exactly. This is so true. I love this conversation, because I do a lot of work with university students and ones who want to set up their own business, and they come into the space and they do talk about, oh yeah, we want to do this, and they've got all these big ideas, but the main thing is that, what are you doing? Where do you step in? What circles are you stepping into? What conversations are you having? How are you showing up? And it's exactly
keep showing up.
Yes.
And keep showing up, and then keep showing up, and keep. It's all about carrying on. Because the thing is, I do believe I'm really lucky. I'm so lucky, but I create all my luck.
You did.
I look for all my opportunities. I see an opportunity in every single situation.
Yeah.
And it's just, you just have to look out for it. Because it's like that thing, if you bought a red car and then you suddenly see loads of red cars, it's that thing of putting your antennas out for that moment and that opportunity, and they will come.
Exactly. And I say to people, I see things that other people don't see. And I get it. It's like, I will see, everybody's just getting excited about the thing. I'm seeing the thing behind the thing.
Exactly.
And that is the thing that why there's certain people that have luck and there's people that don't. And then and then they complain about, oh, my life's really boring and whatever. And it's like, no, let's just peel it back. What are you doing every day? How are you approaching this?
Exactly.
So,
and that I couldn't agree more, because it's like we all get one life that we know of.
Yes.
We all get 24 hours, and it's how you want to spend those. And sometimes, because I'm a really hard worker, last week, this week, not even last week, I've been working 18-hour days, and then 3-hour travel journey to the place, staying the night, getting there really late, and then working from really early till really late, and then traveling 3 hours back. But what I think is really important is you do that, but you don't do that all the time. Previously, I have done that all the time, but I've learned as I've got older, you need to be working really hard, but you also need to be resting as well.
And give yourself space.
And as a person, I'm always a work hard, play hard person, and I've always been that way. So when I was in my degree, I was working my hardest, and I got a first from Chelsea, which is really difficult to get. But at the same time, I was going out and I was working 2 jobs and I was just doing it all. And at that time, you don't need as much sleep then as well. So you can go for it. But as you get older, you really need to know what are your priorities. Like I've got a family, I've got a daughter and I've got a husband that I really want to make sure that I'm spending time with them. I've also got, so this is why I've got one human baby because I've got one business baby and I had to let go of my Rose Hill Designs to make space for co-creative connection. For me, I believe that I like to do it really well and I need to really focus on those things. That's how I work. Not everybody works in that same way. But I think it's really important to be able to have that amount of space for each of your things. Like you need to be able to like space it out, work really hard in the bit that you're doing, but also making sure that you are recouping, you are spending time with your family. So there is this hustle culture, work. But actually I do believe in that, but I also believe that we only get one life and we need to make sure that we're living it to the best.
You've got to grab the opportunities, you know, like, and a lot of the times, you know, going back to this, you know, people who just working, you know, people will say, oh, are you busy? And I hate that expression when people ask you, oh, are you busy? And they're hoping for you to say yes. And then they say that that's success. You know, to them, it's success if you're busy and your diary's really full and all of that. And, you know, I've come to the stage in my life now that, no, I'm not. I'm not really busy, but I'm so happy, you know, because I've worked out and I've mapped up the type of life I want. So I'm doing the stuff. I'm working really hard in certain areas, like you said, but I'm also having that downtime. And, you know, and I don't want to be really busy anymore. I've done all of that really busy. And I want, you know, I'm at a different stage. And we all have those different stages in our life. It's like you said, when you were younger, you had all that energy, you could do all of those things. But, you know, you sort of move and your life changes, things change in your life and you live in a different way. But you're still having an amazing life and you're doing something that you are so inspired by.
Definitely. And this is something that I think that's why I wanted to tell you the whole story is because I feel like everything that I worked in has led me to where I am now. So each time it was the right time at the right stage, but every single thing by teaching at the V&A and the British Library, by painting murals around the world, by doing these greeting cards, it led me to here. By working all the different jobs, I've been working since I was like 14 years old. And I was, when I was a kid, I just worked in a hairdresser's, then I was working as a waitress, then I worked in a shop. All of these things lead you to everything that you're doing to here. So I think it's really important to be like, well, never compare yourself like your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 10. Like I've been doing this for 21 years. So, and I have had lots of success, but I've also had so many knockbacks and so much hard work. And it's, you have to be like, I think in a lot of industries, but especially in the creative industry, you need to be really resilient. You need to go, okay, I'm collecting these no's. Instead of getting upset every time you get a no, it's like, okay, that no is going to lead me to my next yes. That no is going to, I've learned this from that. I've learned this from that.
What was the experience?
Exactly. And this is, and because it's not all sunshines and rainbows. And obviously on your LinkedIn and on your Instagram, you are going to be just saying your highlights, of course, because that's what it's all about. And that's where it's different now because there's no gatekeepers anymore. So you don't need to do these trade shows quite as much because you have social media. You've got LinkedIn. You can find out whoever you need to know and then go, oh, okay, I now find out if you're going into the greeting card industry, who's the buyer of Scribbler. Oh, I can find them out on LinkedIn. And it's super easy. And then you can be like, oh, well, actually, can I invite you to my personal exhibition? So I did my own exhibitions where I was paying for all of like the Prosecco, the all of the different things that had to be, and like doing all the promotion. But these are the things that you have to do. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Exactly.
But this is how you see, oh, this worked, this didn't. This worked for this amount of time. Now it doesn't work anymore. Now I've got to do this. And this is the thing. And if you gamify it and make it feel like a game to you, like working it out, then that's going to be enjoyable. If you're thinking, oh God, you're getting no's or this isn't working, that's when it's going to be harder.
And it's also believing in yourself as well, and knowing that if you do get the no's, you have that belief in yourself that this is a no, like you said, it's just a no now. I just need, that's not meant to be. So let me move to the next one and the next one. And, you know, what did I learn from that? You know, it is just, it's that belief that keeps you going. It
Definitely.
is that belief in yourself that keeps you going. So, a little bit about your childhood then. So, were you
Yeah.
very creative as a child?
Yeah, so because you can tell my age because of all my references of things, but
Yeah.
do you remember that film, Three Men and a Little Baby?
Yes. Yeah.
So I remember in primary school, me and my best friend at that time, we used to say, we are going to be like them. We're going to live in a house where it's just friends and we're going to draw all over the walls.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, literally in primary school. And I've nailed who I am now.
Yeah.
That's like bonkers,
Yeah.
right? But it took a time. And I'm really lucky. I've got really creative parents, but my parents are completely different. So I grew up in the 90s and my dad is a Buddhist vegan. My mum is a vegetarian. They're both hippies. And I lived in Islington, which is like it's a very affluent area now, but at the time and still now, there's pockets of very roughness. Like
Yeah.
I went to Islington Green where I had all the gangs of the area. So Packet Estate, White Cross Estate, Marcus Estate, all of them, Spa, like all of them go to the same school as I went to. And I was an unusual kid in the sense of the fact that my parents were hippies. I was a vegetarian in the 90s. No one ever heard of a vegetarian in the 90s. Like it was really difficult. But you know what it did? It made me know how to navigate and realize I've got something in common with
Yeah.
everybody, but it's different things. So
Yeah.
when you speak to this person, oh, I realize that this is what I've got in common with you. Oh, this is what I've got in common with you. And I think by having an interesting upbringing that's quite unusual makes you more resilient to things and
Yeah.
makes you more interesting and also makes you see things differently. So I was really lucky when I was a kid. I was going to Glastonbury before it was cool. My mum
Yeah.
and dad were paying for a little hole in the fence, and we used to go up and we used to stay up for like the school holidays. And this was amazing. My mum and dad were like, oh, all my kids rebelled, they all got degrees. So like I think this is like really amazing to have this kind of different sorts of upbringings, but
Yeah.
other people don't always agree. Like sometimes some people might have thought that was really difficult, but actually I as a person am very optimistic and I see the opportunity and I see how that made me a stronger person, how it made
Yeah.
me more creative. And like I was so funnily enough, even though I'm an artist, I never actually technically did art. Like I didn't do art GCSE, I didn't do art A level. I did do an art foundation and then I did textiles. But I think it's really there's no one way that fits there's not one shoe that
I
fits
say this
everyone.
over and over again. There is no one way. Everyone's different. And you
Exactly.
know, and this is why when I hear things out there like people are doing training courses and stuff like that and saying, oh, follow my exact steps and this is what I did to get this. I'm like, no, please don't tell people that, you know, because they could follow your exact steps and it doesn't happen. And on most
Exactly.
occasions, it doesn't happen. It happens for you because of who you are and all the different extra spice that happens in your life. So,
Exactly. It's like a recipe. You need to
yeah,
pick bits that
yeah,
that resonate with you to put
yeah,
into your thing. And that toolbox, it's just like you pick that tool. Like a
yeah,
hammer will hammer a nail in the
mm,
wall. A screwdriver will screw a nail into the wall.
yeah.
You're both getting to the same
Same
end
thing in
result, but they're
ways,
different. Exactly.
different
But
ways.
if you use the screwdriver to hammer the nail in the wall, that's not going to work.
No,
And if
no,
you use the hammer to screw into the wall, it's not going to
not
work.
gonna,
So
yeah.
you have to find your own way. And we're so lucky with the internet now.
Oh my goodness.
We've got abundance of
Yeah,
knowledge. And
yeah,
I'm as a person, I love to grow and I love to learn. It's like I think that's the one thing. And even when I was a kid, I used to say, the one good thing about being like an old person is that you'll know all this stuff. You'll get to know
yeah.
all this stuff. And actually, you're always going to be learning. Every day is a school day.
Every
And
day.
and we're so lucky to be able to have
Yeah,
that. but again, there's so much, so we can only take in what we can take, because as a very ambitious person, I'm always wanting to learn more. And at the time I was like sometimes doing too much, but actually I've realized, so I go for a walk in the mornings and I love to listen to a podcast or an audiobook, and I love that. When I'm painting, I'm doing really long days and I fast sometimes during them so I can work and not have like any breaks. I used to listen to podcasts and audiobooks, and I found that it was quite draining. So now I'm like, no, I'll just listen to some crap bit of telly that I don't need to look at, but it can be my entertainment, but I don't need to like worry about. But that's changed. So when I was younger, it was fine. But because I am doing and learning so much all the other time, I'm like, no, actually, I can't do that at that time. So I know when I should be doing something and when I should be doing it. And this is, I think, something that with age that you get that break. And you learn.
And you need to connect in yourself so that you can learn, because sometimes you're wondering why the challenges are happening and you're wondering why you're feeling a certain way, but you don't actually realize what's causing it. So as we get older, things change. What worked years ago, not necessarily going to work now. So the same as society changes and the things around us change, we change as individuals as well. I want to ask you, was there a time that you felt like, because it sounds like, you've had this most amazing life. And like you said, you've had your challenges, you've had the nodes, you've had all of that. But is there a time that you can think of that you lost your way?
You know what? I think that everything happens for a reason. Like, I do think that it all, I remember I've had difficult times. So when I was changing my career from the greeting cards and the Make Your Pet Famous to the murals and the workshops, I was doing some projects and it was amazing. I was doing this project with Higgins Partnerships on some hoardings in Sydenham. So it was a bit of a trek for me to get there. And I'd done the workshops and they were brilliant. And I loved all the people that I was working with. However, there was a couple of people there that didn't want the build to happen. So basically they had a green space and they were getting a new flat built on the green space. Understandably, if you've been living in these flats for ages, you don't want your green space to get rid of to have more people there. Fair enough. But there was a particular lady who was not super nice, and she like actually proper shouted at me, and it was actually my birthday that I was painting on as well. And I was like, oh, this isn't fun. And at that time, I then got COVID, then a really bad cold, and it was in November. And COVID meant that we had to stop painting because I had COVID. I had to be segregated and all that kind of stuff. And then I got a really bad cold, and then it was winter. We're painting outdoors. It was taking 24 hours for this hoarding to dry, and then it would rain, so it would get ruined. And at that point, I was like, I've just changed my whole career. I've sent out newsletters saying I'm not doing any more Make Your Pet Famous. Like literally, like really announce to the world that I've changed my whole career. Have I made the right choice? But then I realized it was because I was ill. I was painting in the cold, and it was not fun. Exactly, it was freezing. It was literal freezing. So we had the unveiling literally on the 23rd of December. So it was 2 days before Christmas. My daughter was there shivering away, and that was the moment I was like, oh, have I done the right thing? Then I realized it was because I was unwell, because I was painting in the cold, that it wasn't enjoyable. So then I put in a rule. Any outdoor murals I only do from March to October.
There you go. Learn from it.
Exactly. And at one point I was like, oh my God, have I done the right thing? But actually it was just the situation wasn't lovely. I had COVID, I had 2 bad colds, and then just a normal cold, then painted in the freezing cold. It was just not fun. But this is where you need to like rest and recognize.
That's a good example of, say, what some people would have just thrown out the baby with the bathwater.
Exactly.
Saying, oh, well, it doesn't work. Not realizing that actually it does work, but just in a different scenario.
Exactly, in the situation. And of course, it's tricky because I have to work with different companies. And I had a company, very upsettingly, I'm not going to name names, but it was like a big housing association. And then they pulled out 2 weeks before we'd done everything. I'd done all the prep work. They pulled out, didn't pay me, and they were like, oh, it was at your own risk. You're self-employed, that's your own risk. So you're like, well, what do I learn from this? Obviously, that was really stressful. How do I build the relationship? How do I repair the relationship? What is it that I'm meant to do? So there's always challenges with every bit of work. When you work for yourself, it's never just blue skies. And obviously on social media, you're going to you may say some of the things. I think people are getting to be more vulnerable now. I personally don't like crying into the camera and saying something like that.
You've got to set the camera up and then cry, haven't you?
Well, yeah, and that's not. I prefer if I'm going to have a cry, I'll just cry on my own.
Yeah, and then exactly. I can understand, obviously, if you're already talking and the tears come, that's different. But then, you know, when it's just like a thing, because it's all very performative now online, and it is, you know, we all know it is a performance. It's about being really good at performing as well.
Yeah, and also, can I just? This is a random one, but what is going on? Why are people getting ready and then talking to the camera? What is that all about? I don't really
putting
care.
their makeup on.
Yeah, or taking it off. Like, what is this about?
I think it's to do with the fact that it takes their mind off just sitting there in front of the camera and talking, because when you're in front of a camera, you've got no audience and nobody to sort of like interact with. So it sort of came in the fact that, okay, let me do something while I'm talking to people. So the time is gone. And funnily enough, that's funny you should say that, because I've seen some comments under people's, you know, feed, and they say, oh, I love somebody sort of like said, oh, why are you doing that, putting your makeup on, Wally? Can you not just talk to us? And then somebody had on the flip side said, well, actually, I love her doing that because I can see all the new ideas and whatever, but also I'm really invested in the story. So I think it's like what you said, everybody's different. So,
exactly.
And it's I think video is a very visual thing. So if you're doing something, it grabs people's attention more rather than you just sat there in front of the camera talking. So I think that's why they did it. But yeah, it works for some people. It doesn't work for others.
Exactly. Different strokes for different folks, as they say.
Oh, do you know what? I could talk to you forever because we've just talked. We haven't stopped, have we? But I've got to wrap things up with a few quick fire questions. So I need to ask all of these questions because it sort of wraps everything up of what we talked about. So the first question is, do you understand what makes you truly happy?
Yeah, I think I do. I think it changes, and it changes each day. But for me, it's making sure my daughter's 9, and I'm making sure that I'm spending every moment really appreciating it, because she really likes hanging out with me, and I'm hoping she will always. But yes, thankfully. But there might be a point where she doesn't, so I'm trying to just like really drink in every moment with her. And what is great when you work for yourself is that you can archetype your so this week, in Monday to Wednesday, I worked more than what people would work in 5 days in those 3 days. So yesterday she had a sports day, and I could have that day with her friends and her parents' friends and stuff. So it's just like, it's really nice to be able to like architect your life, and I think that's really important to be able to do that. But also, like, for me, I do yoga, and I know that if I don't get to do yoga or my exercise, then I really find after a while I get a bit ratty. I need to make sure, like, I'm really lucky I was with my husband since I was 16, turning 17. So we have been together for such a long time.
Is he artistic as well, or is he completely different to you?
So it's hilarious. You know, I said I'd never tasted meat. So in my life, he's a butcher. So it's quite hilarious, and that was on the back of my cards because I thought it was hilarious. So but it's even funny because my daughter, she doesn't eat meat either, and her dad's a butcher, so I think that's even funnier. So but he is creative, and he's such a rock, and he's so amazing because he's really supportive of my work. He really listens, he really understands. He doesn't understand everything in the sense that he does it, but he understands because he allows me to talk. So like when that customer pulled out, that client, that was really stressful. I couldn't sleep, and that was on my mind. That was the only thing I could talk about for a couple of weeks because that was really on my mind. And he was there happy to listen. and like be there and be that rock. So I think I remember when I was younger and I always thought, I'm really ambitious. I wanted my partner to be really ambitious, and I thought it'd be like really amazing. But actually, I realised that if you're both,
yeah, you need the yin and yang.
Exactly.
You would have been butting heads all the time if he was
exactly. And he came along to Australia when I wanted to go to Australia, and I was really pleased because I was so proud when I went to Australia. I was like, I really want you to come. I've always wanted to go. I am going to go if you don't want to come, but I'd much prefer you to come with me. But I was strong enough in myself to say, I really want, like, because at that point, we'd been going out like 9 years at that point. So it was a long time. I was only like 24, 25. But I was like, and I was so glad that he wanted to come. He actually didn't want to come home. So it was hilarious.
That's amazing. Right. How are you with getting still? Because I can tell that you've got so much energy.
Yes,
how
definitely.
Are you getting still to feel emotions and to feel what's your next step? What's your next move?
So that's really important because I'm always delivering, and I'm really lucky I've had a mentor. I think I recognize really good people and I keep them. So like all my friends I've had since I was really young, my husband since I was really young. I also had a mentor since like Rose Hill Designs, and we've still been in contact. And sometimes it's more regularly, sometimes it's less regularly. AI has made it a little bit easier for him. He doesn't need to like check, because I'm dyslexic, so he doesn't need to check all my emails quite as much. Those kind of things. But those are really important points, is like making sure that I speak with him, get everything prepared for him as well. Also, I think the yoga, I do meditation as well. So to try and, because my mind, I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I can imagine I possibly do have it.
So I think all creative people have. They've got a spectrum, you know, whatever.
Definitely. Well, I'm definitely neurodivergent. I'm dyslexic. But my brain is a million miles an hour.
Mine too.
So, and that's where yoga is really important for me to then slow down. Swimming, I love swimming, but I'm not rich enough to have my own pool. If I had my own pool, I'd be swimming every day.
You're getting there.
One day, all the community work will make me money. But swimming really helps you, because then you have to concentrate on your breathing when you're swimming. So that's what with yoga and meditation. So that's the way that I come. But I have to work on that.
I understand that. I understand that so well, because I've got to make it a conscious effort. But then I know how important it is, because the last thing that you want, especially when you're on the go all the time, is that you keep going, and then you end up in a place and you're thinking, how did I get here? You know, how did this happen? This isn't what I planned for my life. Why am I in this space? And that's because, you know, the little signs have been there all along the way, but you just haven't taken the time to hear them and respond to them. So I just know how important that is. And so I know, like, some of my guests, they you know, really good at it. Some are like, I know I need to do it and I need to spend more time. But it's really interesting to hear responses around that. And you said earlier, and I know what the answer to this next question is like, have you found your tribe? You said you've got like such a group of people that you've known for years and have been around you. And that sounds like yes to that question.
Definitely. And then, but I love people. So I love learning about people. I love meeting people. So I'm really lucky that I've got loads of people that I've had for many, many years. And then I meet new people. So I went to Downing Street last week, which was really amazing. And I was chatting to a lovely lady called Jess, and literally she was like, you're my new BFF. And I was like, and it was so amazing, just like instantly we became really good friends. And that's really nice. And I do think when you run your own business, it's so different from when you work for somebody else. There's a lot of extra, because you never get to switch off. You are always going to think about it. And that's why you need to make sure that you try not to, when you're like at sports day or you're doing this, you should be in that moment. But obviously, when you go to bed at night, it's really easy to then think about all the different things that you need to do.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's why it's so important to have friends that have their own businesses, because they do understand. Because I do think you're a different animal. That's a different way of thinking. I remember when I was working for other people to when I worked for myself, I remember I lost a couple of friends because they didn't understand why I was working so hard. They didn't understand why I was missing that party to make a giant doll. Like, they didn't understand. And then they didn't understand, like, you're spending so much money on these trade shows. And then you're like, I need to make sure that it goes well because I'm spending so much money. And then you're asking me to spend more money on something that I don't really care about.
And our priorities are different, aren't they? When you have your own business, your priorities are different. It doesn't really matter that, you know, everybody's just going out for drinks. You know, I'm working on getting an exhibition ready, or I'm working on this or whatever. So that's just like a whole different mindset. Rose, I've got a final question for you. Do you love yourself unconditionally?
Yes. Yes, I do. But it's the unconditionally. I do love myself. I remember the first time I said it to myself in a yoga class. Actually, the teacher told us to say it to ourselves, and I squirmed actually, and I was really shocked because I was like, oh, I never thought about it. If I'm honest. Yeah. And it was a while ago. It was about 10 years ago, I'd say, when that teacher said it. And I remember thinking, oh, that's a bit weird. And I went, like, my shoulders went up and I was like, oh, why am I feeling like that about this?
Yeah.
But I do love myself, but I also want to grow. I know there's places where that I need to improve, and I do always want to grow. And because I always want to grow, I don't always quite see myself as I don't want to say good enough, because that's not correct, but there's space that it's sometimes uncomfortable, because if you are always trying to be better, you don't always feel like where you are is good enough.
Exactly.
Which is bad though, because we need to be like, this is my level at what I know now. At the time, this is all the information that I know. This is the best that I can do now. So, but also, so it's that friction that I think is really important. That you need to have this friction, but it's like how to be content with yourself, right? Yeah. So it's
actually nailed it. Hit the nail on the head, because that question about loving yourself unconditionally, I love it when it's a resounding yes, because it doesn't mean that you feel you're perfect and you've got nothing else to learn. It just means that you love yourself, all warts and all, and know that you're on a journey. That this is a journey that you're on, and it will change tomorrow. It'll change next year, maybe, or whatever. But I love, it's like I say to people, I love the way, I do love myself unconditionally, because I love the way I think. I love the way I work through problems and challenges. I love the people in my life. I love the way I'm inspired. All of these things that's unique to me. These are the things that's going to help me navigate my way through all the ups and downs of life. So it doesn't mean that we're perfect when we say that we love ourselves unconditionally. It's just we love who we are and how we deal with life going forward. So yeah,
definitely.
So I love your answer.
Thank you. And it is important, because I think it's really important to think about, right? It's really important to be like, actually, yes, but also where I can grow. But and I think that's sometimes because you're so in that forward thinking of trying to get there, that you don't really appreciate who you are here. And I think that's the thing. It's like, you don't want to be looking back, but you do need to be like looking where you are and thinking about it. And and you're always going to be with yourself. That's the one person that you are not going to be able to get away from.
Rose, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. We could just talk for hours.
100%. I love it.
I love it. I love all the creative, because I do have like a variation of people who come on, and you know, some people are very online and what they do, and you know, they're coaches or they're mentors or whatever. And so I love these types of conversations when I'm talking to somebody like you who's like really practical and doing all the practical
Yeah.
things, and just hearing how amazing your journey has been. I've loved it. So people can find you quite easily on social media now. Is that how they can find you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So co-creative connection. So
Okay.
alliteration, all the C's. It was really nice because if you're Spanish, it's CCC. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's co-creativeconnection.com for the website, co-creative connection for Instagram, Rose Hill on LinkedIn, but also co-creative connection on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, you got a little hyphen in there. So
I will
definitely,
share your links, so don't
yes,
worry. I'll share all your
please.
links, and then get that out when I share the podcast. So yes, that will go out with it. So thank you so much again for
Thank
being a
you.
podcast guest. Thank you for sharing all your positivity, all your creativity, and just, you know, getting us all fired up about who we are as individuals, and fired up about making our own luck and creating our own luck as well.
Definitely.
So thank you to everyone who's been listening. I am sure that you have been inspired. I'm sure you're fired up. I'm going to be back next week with another amazing guest. But in the meantime, keep being the true you. Bye, everyone.